gonna react to the Antique Roadshow's watches, or watches being featured on the Antique Roadshow. And that is always very interesting because it's called antique, meaning it's old, meaning it's vintage, meaning there is no big titties. New, like modern, big, beautiful women. This is solely about watches. Before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel now. Join the God tier army. 1978 Rolex Daytona Cosmograph.
Oscar.
Hey.
Tell me what you brought today.
Oscar, how are you, son? You look like an Oscar.
I brought a Rolex. My dad left it when he passed away.
Beautiful watch, actually. That's a vintage Rolex Daytona, reference number 6263. Really, really cool watch. That is such a cool watch. One of my favorite Daytonas of all time. I just put you on sleep, you c***. How unbelievably cool is that watch? That's like the grill of watches. This is the thing with money nowadays, right? You know, actually I'm not even wearing a watch. That's a embarrassment. I need a watch. All right, let me grab a watch. I don't care what watch it is. I can't be a YouTuber talking about watches not wearing a watch, can I?
Put on your toy watch?
Yeah, put on my toy watch, but whatever. At least it's a watch. This is the thing with modern watches nowadays and watch collections. Like, this is a watch that money basically can't buy. It's not that means that you can't buy this with money. You have to have money to buy this because it's very expensive. But it's like, you actually need to make an effort to find a really good version. It's not just money involved, right? With modern Rolexes, okay, if you can't get it from an AD, you get it from another source like brideandpinion.com.
Nice plug.
Yeah, sorry. Buying a watch like this requires research, time, effort, taste, and money, where other watches just require money.
But it might be hiding in your attic.
Yes. That's what I love about vintage watches, you know?
My dad left it when he passed away.
Like, and it's a story as well. His dad.
When we were growing up, my twin and I, we would always
Sorry, I'm just excited. I love this. I love this watch.
kind of fight for it because we always thought it was like a nice piece of watch. He decided at the end that he would give it to whomever would go the farthest in education. So we were kind of competing growing up. We studied the same things, graphics and arts and all that. At the end, I got a master's degree and...
Interesting. Arts. Well, how does that work? You study arts. Well, how does that work?
You just do some drawings, I think.
Yeah. Oh, you learn how to draw shit.
Yeah.
All right.
It ended up on my end, but we share it. I share it with my brother. It's just something sentimental.
Why do you think your father bought this particular watch model?
I have no clue. I think he used to dress really nicely and he liked really cool things.
I just like that watch. I just wanted to have a moment of silence for this watch where I was able to look at this absolute beautiful piece.
I think he bought it back in the 80s. We're originally from Mexico and I think he saw it as a...
Mexico! Tequila is from Mexico, right? I know this, by the way. You can only call your drink tequila when it's coming from Mexico.
Really?
Yeah.
precious gift. I have no clue why he chose that specific model.
Well, let's talk about the watch a little bit. So, we know it's a Rolex.
Yes.
It's a Rolex Daytona Cosmograph.
Don't call it Cosmograph, please. Don't. It's a Rolex Daytona, yeah? Cosmograph is the chronograph version, this version, of the watch that Rolex submitted to NASA to compete against the Speedmaster and to be the first watch on the moon. That's why it's called Cosmograph. They lost it against the Speedmaster. Speedmaster won, but they kept the name Cosmograph on the dial, and still today it is on the dial. But it's not a Rolex Daytona Cosmograph.
I looked at the serial numbers, and this watch was manufactured in 1978. Okay? You see it's got the 3 sub-dials for different timing.
The left sub-dial is your actual second hand, right? That black hand in the middle, what is sitting weird, that's not your second hand. That's actually a chronograph hand. The right counter, the one that says 10, 30, 20, that's your minute counter. That's your 30-minute counter. And then we have a hour register, which is in the bottom, which is below Daytona. That's the bottom one. It says 12, 3, 6, and 9. That's your hour register. So you can measure seconds, minutes, hours. Not too bad.
We have the outside tachometer on the outer ring. It's been given all kinds of different names that only exist in the collectible community. So yours is known as the Panda dial, and that comes exactly from the panda bear, black and white.
Ah, that's racist, mate.
Other watches have black dials with white subdials. Most collectors feel that this is the most pleasing dial of all the watches.
Okay.
Another feature, you see we have Daytona in red.
I love the color combination, the black, the white, and the red.
It's very pleasing, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, the red on some of them is called the big red, and it's a wider, fatter, bigger font. This is a smaller red. Some other features are it's a manual wind.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing the little clicking and all of the mechanical things that comes with it.
And you have a screw-down waterproof crown.
Yes.
This model has screw-down waterproof buttons. The earlier models of this watch, the buttons could accidentally be depressed, and you might start off a timer or stop a timer inadvertently. So to fix that problem, they decided let's make them screw down, and now you can't accidentally move them.
Yeah, but the only point on this is that the pushers are not fully waterproof. This is not a fully waterproof watch. There's a bit of a confusion there, right? The watch is waterproof, but when you use this chronograph, this exact chronograph, underwater, this movement is not waterproof when you're pushing the pusher. That opens the seal, that pushes the mechanics, that actually lets water in. And this is why in 1987, well, the production in 1986 actually, but the production started in 1988, Rolex has asked Zenith to help them with a fully automatic, fully functional integrated chronograph. That was in 1988, and that is the actual Daytona shape that we now know today. But you see that bezel, by the way, because I skipped on the bezel. That bezel sets units per hour. You can actually measure speed and distance with that bezel. So you can actually start the chronograph, check with the second hand how fast someone is going when you know the exact measurement of 1 mile or 1 kilometer between 2 points. This is how we measured distance and speed and all sorts of things. And this is also how people navigate back in the day.
Let's talk about some values.
Sure.
Sound interesting to you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so this dial is perfect. It is the most beautiful dial, no fading, no chipping.
It is quite good, to be fair. You see the loom plots, these wee brown balls. There's nothing racist there, by the way. They're not white anyway. They're brown or beige or whatever the color they are. They were white when this watch was released. That were actually the loom plots, and it's quite rare to see the actual loom plots on this watch, all of the loom plots. And you know what? Another point, you can actually see that this watch hasn't been re-loomed, meaning that after the loom plots were burned out, because they've been used so much, because the watch is old, it's old as people went to Rolex or went to a watchmaker to get the watch re-loomed. That was normal. That's what you were able to do. But you can literally see that this watch hasn't been re-loomed. And you also see that with the original hands. It's good.
No moisture ever got in there. It's incredible. Your crystal that covers the watch, that's plastic acrylic. It's got a little bit of scratching. But what I like about this is that you've left it just as your dad gave to you. And in this day and age, that's a very important feature on a watch. So, in today's market, we hear all about these selling privately, selling at auction, selling for all kinds of crazy numbers. And this one here, this is going to be a little bit of a crazy number too.
Oh my gosh.
So, in today's retail market, this watch is going to sell $95,000 to $105,000.
Oh my God.
Don't sell your soul. Don't sell your soul! He's seen dollar signs. I'm like, here, you have it. Buy it, buy it, buy it. It's your father's watch, mate. That watch is irreplaceable.
That's crazy. Really, it's crazy because I've worn it on the subway sometimes.
That's a watch to be worn. No one knows how much that watch is worth, bar absolute watch lunatics and snobs and nerds like me. There's not many people that know that that watch is worth that much.
And knowing that I've got like $100,000 in my wrist, wow, that's insane. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you for my new Tesla.
I love wearing it, but definitely I'm not gonna wear it that often, only on very, very special occasions.
You need to wear that watch with pride, because every time you have that watch on your wrist, you're being reminded of your father or of $100,000 you could have had instead. But that's nice watch, nice guy. He looks a bit like the guy from, what do you call that comedy thing? Austin Powers. He looks like the guy from Austin Powers. I you not. I'm really glad to see such an incredibly beautiful version of one of my all-time favorite watches. I always say that vintage watches are the most important of our industry. Vintage watches carry stories like no other watch can. It has so much character and it's so cool. I rarely see a beautiful 6263. This guy is very lucky and I genuinely hope he still has the watch.
He sold money signs.
Yeah, I saw money sounds like. Yeah, he sold it.
The watch is gone.